Before the forests were mapped, before roads cleaved through the soil, the Ardennes belonged to a goddess who did not ask for peace, she enforced it, Arduina. She does not whisper, she roars. She does not plead, she strikes. Her sanctuary is not tranquil, it is defended. And those who break the sacred balance of the wild learn why the forest still remembers her name. She rode a boar not for elegance but domination. Her bow was not a symbol, it was sentence. When armies marched into the undergrowth with iron and arrogance, they did not find conquest, they found transformation. This is not a tale of delicate divinity or passive ritual. It is one of resistance, of vengeance wrapped in vines and rooted in soil so old it defies even empire. Before Roman legions turned to stone, before hunters became hunted, before myth became memory, there was Arduina. And she never stopped watching. Some say that deep within the uncharted groves of the Ardennes, a trail still winds past statues that walk no more. The stone walk, where time stood still. Roman soldiers, armored, disciplined, certain, trained for conquest, they carried imperial banners as if they bore divine sanction. What they saw before them were woods, unclaimed, unruled, unworthy of reverence. What they did not see was boundary, sacred threshold, warning. The forest did not welcome them, it watched. They moved deeper, pushing past stone cairns and trampled groves, raising what they did not understand. Shrines crumbled, offerings stolen, paths cleared by axes that had never felt the weight of consequence. But Arduina was not absent. She had watched them measure land like spoils. She had heard their laughter echo through stolen glades. And when the threshold was crossed, truly crossed, she answered. The shift was not seismic, it was atmospheric. The wind turned, the light warped, animals disappeared into shadow, and then, one by one, the soldiers stopped moving. No cries, no panic, just stillness and permanence. Their forms hardened mid-step and mid-command, shields frozen in defense, faces etched with arrogance at the moment before humility. A legion no longer marching, but embedded, each one a monument to trespass. Time did not mourn them, it claimed them. Arduina had not waged a war, she had issued a verdict. And the forest remembers. It began with mist, not fog, mist with intent, rolling in from the underbrush, heavy with the scent of moss and antler. Then came motion, the wild hunt, a spectral procession bound neither to death nor life, led by Arduina atop her great boar, flanked by hounds whose howls never echoed. Her eyes gleamed like moonlight on wet stone, not a hunt for sport, a hunt for reckoning. It followed the desecrators, those who defiled shrines, razed sacred groves, or entered the forest with conquest in mind. Witnessing it was omen enough, but for the marked, it was the final chapter. Some were dragged into the trees, never seen again. Others emerged days later, broken and hollow-eyed, their minds splintered by visions no mortal soul could hold. A few were cursed to ride forever in Arduina's wake, spectral, faceless, absorbed into myth. No one touched by the hunt walked unchanged. It did not pursue out of vengeance. It moved to restore what had been unbalanced. Intent summoned it. Arrogance sustained it. And in the Ardennes, beneath moonlight and memory, it rides still. Long before the hunt became legend, it was reverence. In the forested highlands of the Ardennes, the goddess Arduina was worshipped as protector and huntress, her name echoing the steep terrain she ruled. The Celtic root ardu, meaning high or steep, gave rise to both the goddess and the land, binding myth to geography. Her followers carved shrines into stone and offered tributes beneath towering trees. Roman-era inscriptions found in the region reference Arduina, often depicted riding a boar, a symbol of protection and ferocity. These shrines, carved into stone or embedded near woodland passes, indicate localized worship and a merging of Celtic myth with Roman syncretism. But reverence met resistance. By the late 6th century, Christian missionaries like Wulfroy arrived in the Ardennes with a mandate to dismantle pagan worship. According to Gregory of Tours, a large statue of Diana, likely syncretized with Arduina, stood atop a hill near Margut, where locals gathered to feast and sing in her honor. Wulfroy and his followers tore it down with hammers, marking the beginning of a systematic purge. The cult of Arduina was not simply abandoned, it was hunted, suppressed, erased, and replaced. Yet the forest remembers. Echoes of her worship linger in regional folklore, where the hunt still rides and the goddess still guards. Though her name faded from temples, it remained etched in place names, oral traditions, and the quiet reverence of those who still walk the woods with respect. The hunt never vanished. It adapted. Across centuries, fragments of its myth resurfaced, not just in oral storytelling, but in paintings, novels, films, anime, and games that evoke its spectral urgency. In visual art, Peter Nikolai Arbo's 1872 painting The Wild Hunt of Odin captured the chaos and majesty of the airborne procession, blending Norse myth with romantic intensity. The image remains one of the most iconic depictions of the hunt in European art history. In anime, Akame ga Kill introduced a faction named Wild Hunt, an elite, brutal force operating as secret police. Though not a direct adaptation, the name and themes of unchecked power and spectral violence echo the original myth. In gaming, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt brought the legend to a global audience. The hunt appears as a central antagonist, an otherworldly cavalry of spectral elves pursuing the protagonist across realms. Its expansion, Hearts of Stone, deepened the mythic tone, while the game's visual and narrative design drew heavily from European folklore. Television adaptations of The Witcher also feature the hunt, especially in later seasons, where it looms as a supernatural threat tied to prophecy and bloodlines. Even where its name is obscured, its motifs endure. Spectral riders, unnatural silence, punishment for hubris, and the uncanny threshold between nature and myth. In regional festivals and revived pagan circles, Arduina reappears, reclaimed as a symbol of resistance to erasure and reverence for the wild. The hunt itself is invoked in rituals that honor ancestral justice and the cyclical return of balance. The forest no longer swallows the myth, it amplifies it, and the hunt rides still, not just through legend, but through every art form that dares to call the wild sacred and the arrogant accountable. Arduina wasn't carved into stone, she was traced in hoofbeats and hidden trails. Her myth is not ornamental, it's insurgent. It rises wherever wild things reclaim their names. If this myth stirred resistance in you, check out the affiliate links to explore curated books that dive deeper into Arduina and her legacy. Help us build the archives, purchase from the registry, and expand the mythic library that powers this channel. Like, comment, and subscribe to support mythic storytelling that refuses to be forgotten. Join the Patreon for exclusive content, early releases, and behind-the-scenes process. The wild never forgets, neither should we.